Based on your experience in cybersecurity, how do you see digital ecosystem in Indonesia compared to other countries in Southeast Asia?
Well, Annika, thank you very much for having me, firstly. It's a pleasure to be here. I've had the opportunity to come to Indonesia for 2 decades now. The transformation of this country has been amazing. Not just the infrastructure transformation, but as you point out, digital transformation. I think Indonesia is certainly right on the edge or the forefront of digital transformation. There's huge amounts of digital natives in this country. You have lots of unicorns. The banks, in my view also as well, compared to other countries, are really on the forefront. If I look at just one example with Mandiri Bank and the live-in application, and giving Indonesians the ability to not only bank, but buy movie tickets, bus tickets, consume other services, I think it's very, very impressive. And with that advancement also comes tremendous amount of risk as it relates to cyber. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but Indonesia is well and truly at the forefront of digital transformation. It's impressive.
How about the comparison to other countries in Southeast Asia? Do you think we are ahead the curve, or what do you think?
Yeah, I do think you're ahead of the curve in a lot of places. I mean, every country is going through digital transformation. If you look at what happened pre the COVID pandemic, everyone talked about digital transformation, but it really wasn't until we were forced, the hand was forced and we couldn't get into data centers. We had to look for cloud-delivered services, and so therefore, everyone started to push transformation. As I travel around the region, I have the opportunity to go from Japan to Australia and India, all the way to China and across Southeast Asia. I would say you are far more advanced. Singapore has advanced, but they're also a much smaller nation with only 5.5 million people compared to your nearly 300 million people. So I think you're certainly leading the way in a lot of places.
Nice to hear it. But what about the biggest challenge that you see in Indonesia for cybersecurity?
I think there are many challenges. I had the opportunity to present yesterday at the 4Digi Summit. I keynoted there on artificial intelligence, and as you and I were talking off camera, the artificial intelligence is coming with a lot of positive, enthusiasm to deploy, but it also comes with a lot of concern around how do you secure artificial intelligence. I think that's one challenge. You have the challenge of nearly 300 million people who are at different stages of connectivity. You've got lots of islands that you're trying to connect to, and so we're working in partnership with companies like Telkom to help get services to those more remote regions, but services with security. And then, of course, there's the education challenge. The education challenge is broad spread across the world. But here in Indonesia, again, how do you ensure that you bring up the next level of talent that understands the digital economy, the digital opportunity, and, of course, how do they ensure that security is at the heart of all of that transformation? So I think there are a number of challenges. But again, I think the government is leaning in very, very aggressively to ensure that you get talent, you educate people well, you continue to push the boundaries as far as digital goes, you're pushing the boundaries with artificial intelligence, and they're now standing up, policy and also, entities to ensure that security remains at the forefront. You have to protect the citizens of this country.
Maybe not many people understand completely what is the negative sides of AI right now. And can you describe what is the biggest risk of artificial intelligence?
I think it's education. People don't understand it today. I think there's a number of dimensions to it. So the example I used yesterday when I was at the keynote, I talked about deep fakes as an example. The adversaries are becoming very, very sophisticated in how they use voice and video to be able to convince people that perhaps it's you or it's me. They could be using these segments to scrape our voices to then build these deep fakes. I used that example yesterday as one example. I think the other one is about 50% or 57%, I think was the statistic, of enterprises are already using some form of open AI application. Most employees are well-intentioned, we believe, but they don't understand what those applications do. And the challenge for the entities is they don't have control of AI applications. The reason they don't have control is because they can't see everything. They don't see what the employee is doing every day. So they could be taking very simple corporate data like marketing and putting it into OpenAI, and suddenly that's out in the wild. So it's about education, it's about policy, it's about getting control through visibility. And then, going back to the point I made yesterday, empowering people to do the right thing. Once you can control it in a limited way, you give people the power to really exploit the opportunity, because it's immense.
How does Palo Alto Networks plan to support digital transformation in Indonesia? Or maybe you have a special strategy, especially for SMEs business?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think, Annika, the first thing is we have recognised Indonesia as a highly developed and fast-growing country. I've been here 6 times in the last 12 months. That's very unusual for somebody in my job, because the size of this business relative to other countries we work in, it's not at the same scale yet. But we are investing, and we have started collaborating a long time ago with the big financial institutions, the telecommunications, and the government, and collaborating on how we can help them deploy cybersecurity capability. We've landed our security clouds here in Indonesia, and what that means is that everything that is available from a security point of view now resides here. We don't have to take data out of Indonesia. We can keep it here, and we can protect the Indonesians. So it's a programmatic effort. We cannot just turn everything on overnight, but the ultimate goal is to ensure that the 300 million odd citizens of Indonesia are protected no matter where they go, whether they're doing their banking, whether they're doing their taxes, whether they're passing the borders, whatever it is. We have to restore trust in the digital economy, and the only way we do that is deploy security across everything.
How do you see the effort from our government to the cybersecurity?
I think they're like every government. They're questioning everything. They're starting with the citizen in mind. They're starting with the supply chain for the assets of national significance. So, government, telecommunications, banking, they're all significant assets, including electricity, PLN. They are all, very, very critical assets to delivering general services to the community. So, the Indonesian government is no different to the others. They're starting with the citizen in mind. They're saying, how do we build capability around cybersecurity? Of course, everyone's thinking about policy. What does policy mean? We don't necessarily get involved in policy discussions. We certainly can provide input from what others are doing. But I think the government has lent in. I mean, they've just announced Cyber Force here, and they're going to stand up a whole new entity that's going to be focused on that capability. That's common with a lot of other countries. So I think it's impressive what they're doing.
And we are in the transition of the government right
Yes.
now. And what do you think should be a focus for the new government?
Well, I mean, I don't. This is the first time I've seen a transition like this up close. So I understand that everyone is, trying to figure out what they're going to be doing post October. I think, the government, like any strategy, I think they're multi-year strategies. Just because one government changes and another one comes in doesn't mean that the importance of cybersecurity changes. It remains at the forefront. So as long as they walk in the door on their first day and say, we know cybersecurity remains at the top of the list or near the top of the list, I think that'll be an important focus for them. Again, you've got to take care of the citizens, and that's the most important thing.